Charles Bracke was 5 years old when he played his first video game. As he progressed into his teenage years, he began to gradually play more and more each day, sometimes spending 12 hours a day playing World of Warcraft or the Elder Scrolls. When he attended college, his gaming addiction got worse. He was on his own and could game until 3 a.m. in the morning and no one would care. Failing the majority of his classes, he dropped out and moved from Indiana to Virginia in order to obtain a job working for a real estate company at the age of 24. The move caused him to end his relationship with his girlfriend, and he felt depressed and lonely. When Charlie got back in touch with her, hoping to reconnect, he found that she was with someone else. At that point, I lost it, he says, and started to play games more consistently, over 90 hours a week sometimes, to escape his problems and his depression. He was soon put on probation by the real estate company, and when his parents came to visit soon after, his mother Sally asked him a very important question. "Charlie, are you a gaming addict?" He considered the question for a long time and finally answered, "Yeah, I think I might be." He got on the internet and took an online quiz that assessed whether someone was an alcoholic. Wherever the quiz mentioned drinking, Charlie substituted gaming instead. In order to qualify as an addict, only a few questions needed to be answered yes, and he affirmed almost all of them. Soon his life was again turned upside down when he was fired from his job. That summer, he took care of his brother Alex's dogs while Alex and his family went on vacation. It was then that he realized how gaming had destroyed his life, and he planned to commit suicide in the following months. Fortunately, his parents learned of his condition and were able to send him to an internet gaming addiction rehab program called Restart. And today, Charlie is content and addiction-free, enjoying his life through other activities other than gaming. The issue of video game addiction or disorder is more prevalent now than ever before. With technology becoming more abundant and simple to use, it is no wonder that in the US, billions of dollars are spent on video games each year, and between 1.7% and 10% of the US population, 5 to 30 million Americans, are addicted to them. The question arises, can a person be genuinely addicted to video games? If so, what can cause it and how can it be treated? To begin, the term video game addiction wasn't finalized until recently. Even today, there's no scientific consensus on the topic of video game addiction. But American Psychological Association, APA, has classified internet gaming disorders as an unverified potential diagnosis, while the WHO, or World Health Organization, lists gaming disorder on its disease list recently in 2018. So, what causes a person to be addicted to video games? Well, the reasons for video game addiction aren't totally clear, but scientists have agreed its cause is similar to other substance addictions, like alcohol, drugs, or tobacco. In the 1930s, psychologist Burrhus Frederick conducted a study using rats and food. Lab rats were placed in a confined space with a lever that dispensed food. He found that if rats were rewarded with a fixed amount of food each time they pressed the lever, they'd soon get bored and quit. But if rewards were dispensed randomly, sometimes none, sometimes a jackpot, rats couldn't stop pressing the lever. Slot machines use this psychological tool to keep people playing, similar to games. When a smoker smokes a cigarette or alcoholic drinks a beer, a feel-good hormone known as dopamine is released in the brain. Typically, dopamine is released when we experience something that brings us pleasure, like eating our favorite food, reminiscing about good times, or even accomplishing a difficult task or project. However, substances such as cigarettes, specifically nicotine, alcohol, cocaine, heroin, and even sugar release unusually high amounts of dopamine into our systems whenever they are taken in by the body. They trick the brain into chemically thinking that they're good for us. As a result, addicts experience a euphoric feeling of pleasure, allowing them to feel as if they're on top of the world. This dopamine rush is also why the lab rats in the study were prompted to press the lever again and again, in hopes of getting a jackpot or higher quantities of food. The negative side of this artificially caused dopamine rush is that when that feeling wears off, users experience a crash, leaving them a little bit more depressed than before. To combat that, they take more of that substance and ride a higher dopamine wave. But when that feeling too wears off, they sink a little bit deeper into depression. The vicious cycle continues until the victim is left, hopelessly addicted to the substance to the point where they have to use the substance in order just to feel normal again. In the gaming world, the brain will usually release large quantities of dopamine when an intense match or battle is won. If a game is notorious for being abused by hackers, for example using aimbot cheats, players may have a harder time securing a win. As a result, they are forced to play the game more just to win once or twice. But when those victories are at last obtained and the player's rank or status increases, the gamer is immediately rewarded by the dopamine rush from the brain and feels content, but only for a short period of time. After that feeling wears off, it's back to the grind of playing constantly in order to feel satisfied and at peace with themselves. After all, no gamer wants to quit a gaming session on a bad note. Dr. Alag, an addiction psychiatrist at Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center, says,
"The gaming world is almost referred to as a crack cocaine addiction, and because you use it and right away you feel the effects of it. Just like that with video game, when you have this intense gratification right away."
Another factor that contributes to video game addiction is the gaming companies themselves. They and their advertising teams do all they can to promote their games and make them more immersive, specifically so the player gets hooked on the game. All games, whether tabletop, field, or electronic, are simulations. They create microcosms of the real world or gesture at imaginary ones. But these simulations have become so expansive, intricate, and immersive that they can no longer be labeled mere entertainment, no more engrossing than an in-flight movie or pop song. They are alternate realities. Two major examples of immersive simulation games are World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy, popular MMORPGs, massively multiplayer online role-playing games. These games allow players, millions of them, to create their own characters, build friendships with others, and create an alternate life within the fantasy world. Some would argue at the cost of their own. In addition, many games implement treasure or loot boxes, containers that hold random rewards like outfits, power-ups, and more. These features keep players hooked on the game because gamers never know when they will strike luck and earn something valuable. Often real money is used to purchase such boxes, making games a sort of gambling for minors. Games are specifically designed to exploit and manipulate the addictive nature of human psychology. Finally, researchers have hypothesized that an emotional component causes people to be hooked on video games. Some addicts might play to escape their problems. Others might use violent, bloody games as an alternate way, a safe way, to let out anger and aggression. If a person has depression or is severely introverted, they might use games as an outlet for recovery or as a way where they can interact with other humans more easily. The problem is that often the person feels compelled to play games more and more over time, sometimes reaching the point where they lie about usage to friends and family, denying the truth about their addiction. Eventually, the urge to play becomes strong enough that they just can't resist. So what happens when a person is hopelessly addicted to video games, and what are some of the symptoms and negative impacts of video game addiction? Gamers can be irritable, miserable, and anxious, sometimes more if they hadn't gamed in the first place. Gaming addiction can also cause neglect of self, for example not changing clothes or showering. Addicts will often gain or lose weight, have poor sleeping quality, and more often than not, their performance at work and school will decline, and their relationships with others will suffer and/or completely end. Playing an excessive amount of video games can also change your brain structure physically and how it performs. Although some studies highlight positive impacts, like increased IQ in kids, boosted learning capacities, improved teamwork in school and workplace, and superior visual-spatial skills that use depth and perception, like estimating the distance between objects, parking the car, or imagining places, other studies show negative results, like a damaged neural reward system, similar to patients with other addictive disorders, poor regulation of boredom, attention problems, social anxiety, sadness, depression, mood swings, and low self-esteem. If you play games on a consistent basis, or find yourself reaching for the controller or keyboard when you feel anxious or depressed, ask yourself these questions to determine if you're addicted. Disclaimer, not intended to give a professional diagnosis of any kind. Do you feel as if you have no control over your gaming behavior? Do you find yourself constantly giving top priority to playing games or thinking about them? Have you noticed an increase in your gaming despite negative consequences, such as conflict in family, poor academic performance, neglect of self, etc.? If the majority of the answers are yes, then you might be addicted to video games. But don't worry, because there are treatments available for video game addiction. Most of the treatments involve applying the same techniques or concepts used to cure other addictions, smoking, alcohol, drugs, etc. One such solution is psychotherapy or talk therapy with a professional therapist or psychologist. Specific types include CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a close examination of your thoughts and emotions, and reconstruction of obsessive behaviors, and group therapy, where a group of individuals who experience a similar problem or addiction gathers together to discuss and overcome their issues as a group. If you have underlying issues like depression, anxiety, or ADHD, the treatment will be slightly different, but roughly the same. More recently, rehab programs for internet and gaming addictions have been created, like Restart. Their goal is to help gamers break free of their addiction and experience life without games. They often encourage participants to engage in other activities besides gaming, like exercising, picking up a hobby, or making new friends. Some more practical solutions you can implement today include setting a time limit on screen time in general, adopting a doing duty first, playing later mindset, using gaming as a reward, and being strict with yourself when following your own limits and rules. Maybe implement consequences of some sort. Strike a balance with gaming. Set a specific time and place for it and try to take a break from the game every once in a while. For example, every couple of days or weeks. Make yourself busy doing productive activities like studying for that big exam or helping a neighbor remodel their house. Pick up a new hobby and make new relationships. Most importantly, be honest with friends and family and ask them to help you be accountable when playing games. And if all else fails, seek a medical professional for help. Not everyone who plays video games is addicted, and not every game is harmful. Studies have shown some games increase hand-eye coordination and cause regions in the brain related to attention to function more efficiently. However, it's quite easy to slip into addiction, and twice as hard to stop. Starting a new hobby and gaining a new set of skills can help break addiction, and today's sponsor can help you do just that. MasterClass offers over 180 different courses that can teach you a new skill or hobby in just a couple of months, and when you sign up, you can access all of them instantly. Head to masterclass.com/newskill to get 30% off your first year, or simply type code NEWSKILL at checkout.